So our next conversation is going to be now on big box. So big box retailers in East Africa and their relationship with the landlords, whether it's one and the same or so. We're going to have a conversation now with Mark Dutour, who's the head of retail, Knight Frank, Uganda, and Human Hassani, who's the CEO, Green Hills Investment and Village Market. Let's clap for them as they come up and we hear from them. So on this one, we'll talk about, let's hear your presentation on big box, on the retailers, and then of course, he'll come in and then we have the next phase of the conversation.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Just a little bit of a change. We're actually going to start off with a little bit of a presentation. I've been given 15 minutes to do the evolution of retail, but basically from the property side. 15 minutes is a little bit difficult because one really has to have a look at the evolution of retail from the aspect of where does it start. So, where does retail start? It starts in its infancy. It starts with the vendor on a highly trafficked road, a highly trafficked intersection. Vendors see the opportunity, there are people there, they move into that area, they start trading. So it's an open public space. That open public space evolves eventually into a bazaar with a whole accumulation of traders, and that will then become a high street eventually. Some bright spark will come and now develop an arcade so that he can get more GLA onto that high street, so that it can generate more income. The strongest trader in that area will start buying up his competition, and it becomes survival of the fittest. And that arcade will turn into a departmental store. That departmental store will then realize, hang on, I have a problem. All my consumers cannot get to me because of the congestion and the conflagration of people in this high street intersection. And they will then take their store, chain store, supermarket, and move slightly on the peripherals of what would have been the central business district. Somebody cleverer than them will then come and say, but hang on, there's still a whole conflagration of people sitting in that CBD. There's congestion, there's gridlock, consumers moving in the morning, consumers moving out in the afternoon. They can't really shop where I am. So let me move a little bit out into suburbia and create on an arterial route out of the central business district a shopping center, whether it be a suburban mall or even a strip mall. Over a period of time, as that suburbia densifies, somebody will come and say, hang on, I can make it bigger and better. And the bigger I build it, the more they will come, and you will end up with a regional shopping center, and then a super regional shopping center. And then you go to the niche mall, the convenience center. And the cycle starts again. It's an ever-evolving cycle. As the city grows and the population grows, it's a never-ending cycle. Busy junction, department stores, inner city shopping centers, suburban shopping centers, further from the CBD, convenience centers. The life cycle of retail property development keeps re-evolving and rejuvenating as the city grows. It's just where do we sit in that cycle? When you talk about the last 10 years, it changes. Kenya has grown, as you can see from the previous research, exponentially in the period of maybe a decade or so ago. But what is happening is no different to what has happened in Kampala, what has happened in Johannesburg, Cape Town, Cairo, what is starting to happen in Lagos now. It's just the benefit that we have is we can exponentially decrease the period of time that this natural progression takes because we can learn from other markets. The retail spread trend, Kampala, CBD starts with Garden City on the peripheral, Oasis, and this is in the last 20 years, Legogo Mall, Metroplex, Acacia, Village, Kamwesi, Arena, TMT, all moving away from the CBD. The suburbs existed, the densification wasn't there. Started in the CBD and rolled out from there. Nairobi, Sarit, yeah. This is not, please, I don't mean to offend anybody, this is not wholly all the shopping centers in Nairobi, but it just shows a history of some of them. Village Market, Capital Center, Prestige, Junction, Westgate. A little bit of anomaly. Westgate came back towards the main trading district from an historical timeline. Galleria, Greenspan, Thika Road. Doesn't matter where you are in the world, the same progression happens. It starts moving out because it's natural. Your city grows, your people grow, your consumers grow. So we have to be there to meet them. But what are the negative impacts on retail developments? So first of all, we've heard the comments saying, you build it big enough, they will come. It's obvious. It's plain retail. If I have a little stand selling lemonade, I'm going to attract so many people. If I now start selling milkshake and lemonade, I've got a bigger market segmentation. And that's how retail grows. The shopping center is the same way. The more products, the more market. Okay. But in this evolution, what happens is the next development improves on the last. It's progress. It's natural. So you get some form of cannibalization. New developments learn from their predecessors. They see what's good, they see what's bad, they reinvent themselves. More cannibalism thanks to the repositioning. And then the anomaly, shopping center development, retail development, it is a science. But no science is exact. You will get shopping centers that do not always captivate and dominate their markets. Room for change. They might have dominated their market 10 years ago. The market's evolved past them. They now have to reposition. There's the life cycle. It's just where do you stand in the life cycle today? 5 major issues that impact on shopping centers. What has happened in the East African market is you found developments have been ultra high net worth individuals who've seen an opportunity and they want one of those. What happens? They go to an architect and they say, I want a shopping center. That's the piece of land. The architect fills the land with a development because the architect tells you your land cost should be at 10% of your total development cost. If the land is at 90 in the development cost and you're showing a 15% return, what do you care? Why does it need to be at 10? Makes no sense. It's an investment, it's a return. So you get a poor design. Why? Because there's no engagement with the end user. The most important thing to a shopping center is how the consumer interacts with the shopping center and how your retailer has an ability to trade in that shopping center. Now, too many of us look at the shop front. We spoke about the demise of Uchumi and Nakumatt in the previous discussion. ShopRite coming and going. How many people in this room actually know that Nakumatt operated on 67 deliveries a day to their store? An average of 67. Why? They didn't have proper service yards built into the developments they accessed because it didn't exist. Their rollout was based on where they could find space big enough, they would open. But without having a logistical infrastructure at the back to service it and support it, they couldn't bring 40-foot containers from a central distribution center into the back of the store. So they had on average 67 deliveries a day straight from suppliers and distributors into their stores. Their stock losses were running at just over 7% because they couldn't control that supply chain. In a company that makes a GP of 16%, on average. You're losing 7% through stock losses. You can never sustain. It will fail. Who's to fault? Who's at fault? The retailer who's looking to grow his business but can't find space that works for him, or the developers who don't develop the proper space for the end user to operate. Until we start talking to each other, until we start working together and understanding each other's needs, there will not be sustainability in retail shopping centers. And that's why you get colleagues of ours yesterday saying, don't invest in retail. I'll tell you the exact opposite. The best investment you can find. Location, 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 accessibility, poor tenant mix and leasing, these impact on the success of shopping centers. And then something that's happening worldwide today, urban decay. Local governments are losing the plot throughout the world, whether you're in the cities of America, Johannesburg, or East Africa. We don't have the service that we used to get. The public sector is a problem everywhere, and that decay of the environment around shopping centers is starting to have a negative impact because it's changing the consumer's behavior. So what is changing the last decade? The biggest change that has come from new developments is, as I was talking, landlord and tenant engagement. The most important comment that all architects learn the first day of their 5 or 7 year degree in folding plans is that form follows function. Form follows function. It first has to function, and then you design the form. And that's what's starting to happen. Retailers are pushing landlords, I need this size box. I need this logistics and operations behind it. I need you to give me A, B, C, D. I am then sustainable. I can then operate. Now let's see how we take this form and get it to function to the consumer. So when we're developing, we look at where do we put our key anchors? Because the key anchors are there to drive the daily footfall. Now, how do we mix the tenant mix around it to benefit from that? And that's how the discussion goes. We ensure that there's effective communication. The end user helps us design the development. This engagement has led to a lot of new terminology in the East African market. We now hear demographic studies, we hear viability studies, we hear pre-lets, grey box, white box, tenant installation allowances, landlord fit-outs, base rental, turnover rental, co-tenancy. But these are not new. These have been around for the last 3-4 decades. They're just new to the local market. So what is happening is your retailer is doing a demographic study of the area where you want to develop, to see, is there a captive audience for me? AI is feeding into that, saying these consumers buy this. These consumers don't have this in the node. That allows the retailer to come back to you and say, you know what? At that shopping center or proposed shopping center, I need a box of 2,000 square meters. But in this demographic, yeah, I only need 800. People are becoming more astute. The science is becoming better. Same as the developers are now also doing demographic studies and asking the community, what do you want? Do you want an ice rink in this community, or do you want a roller skating rink? Do you need a hypermarket or a supermarket? Do you buy furniture? And we're once understanding consumer behavior, habits, and needs, developments are put together. With the retailer's involvement of what works for them, that is what creates the sustainability in the long term. And if the retailer is performing, so are the rental levels. Last but not least, the new buzzword, e-commerce. We're going to go into panel discussions today, which is going to elaborate more on this. E-commerce, we've all heard what's happening. You saw the previous thing. Research that's been done, the changes into tech, the changes into last mile. We've all heard that 2,000 shopping centers are being repurposed in America. The high street has failed. How many shopping centers are there in the United States? Anyone have that answer? In 2019, there were in excess of 120,000. 20% of retail trade is done online in America. 2,000 shopping centers have repurposed. Is it because of online? Is it because of urban decay? Is it because of changing demographic? I can't give you that answer. But the answer that I can give you is that 20% of retail trade is online, but only 2% of shopping centers have been repurposed. The narrative doesn't meet the statistics. Last but not least, I'll show you the media and statistics. This is a Shoprite group out of South Africa, relevant to Kenya, Uganda. They came, they saw, they didn't conquer. They put the tail between their legs and ran back home. But if you look at the narrative, in 2019, the group started 60-60, the last mile, the delivery. If you look at this graph, you say, wow. From the time they opened 60-60 to the end of 2023, they increased their annual revenue by some $68 billion rands, which is roughly $3 billion a year. What the graph is not telling you is in 2019, Shoprite operated 2,900 stores. At the end of last year, they operate 3,600. They've added an additional 700 bricks and mortar stores between 2019 to 2023. Is it e-commerce that's showing that growth, or is it their footprint growth? Just a thought. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. If the panel can please come up.